wear it down, so all you can about see it. We're both looking at each other, you know, and you just don't know who people are.
Yeah.
Oh, Cece's here. All right, we're gonna go live right now, guys. Well, we're not gonna go start the meeting. It's just the YouTube streaming is. You should be.
4 feet. Oh, 8.
Let's see.
There you go.
I knew that was going to happen.
You got your earring.
No, I got my hearing aid.
What?
Hello, Cece.
Good evening.
Well, wait a minute, you gotta switch with Mike, because now you're gonna be able to hear and talk to you.
Pardon?
What?
Oh, darn it. I hate this.
Take your time, you got plenty of time. Do we need to wear a mask for like the opening part or no? Like you said something about the wear MT.
It's up to you if you want to wear a mask or not.
I have it if I need one.
Trying to get everyone in the
No, I
picture
say,
here.
Cece, you need to sit on the other side of Mike, because now you're gonna be able to hear and pick on
Should put the hearing aid in this ear.
you.
Oh, I can see the screen better.
Yes, you can see it.
But that one is sharper than that one.
Will you
Yes.
just try this side, CC?
You can't believe anybody else.
Close the blind, then we won't get the glare.
Just slide right around, so you see that.
Careful, Cece, we're live.
Pardon?
We're live.
We're live.
Right, yeah.
Oh, like the chart
Oh,
department.
are we really?
We are.
Oh, shit.
We're streaming.
There's only one person watching, and I think it's me.
Just tell us
So
when you
he's
start.
the
Tell us when you start recording.
Got his mask on.
I know, exactly.
I'm trying to get CC in the picture here. Kyle, can you do me a favor? Can you move that chair out of the way right in front of me?
We're not having people come in.
No. It's just, this is how it was set up for that last time we had a,
Is that better?
yeah, that's good. I could do that,
Just aim it
except
for that
every
way.
time I move, if I move the laptop at all, it could potentially shake this and churn it, so. this is
Want me to put it here and it can go that way?
No, it's fine. I'm trying to get all of you in the picture with this,
Nice try. Nice try, Cece.
with the 6 feet,
Nice try.
with this 6 feet rule. It makes it harder to get.
We're going.
I can move, come on now.
Like I said, we can actually
guys.
side by side.
I think I got you guys.
No, I'm fine, Brent.
Talk to you.
All right, you're all good.
I brought my special mask for you.
There.
All right, let me. So we're live there. We'll do the. It'll still be on both screens for y'all.
I'm gonna go ahead and hit the record button.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome and thank you for choosing. If you are the, please. Thank you. There are 4 participants in the conference. Please announce yourself.
Harbor Springs City Council.
Ely Tate. Barbara Buzz.
Lucas Vandersee.
I'm sorry?
Lucas Vandersee.
Hi, everyone. You guys are so well behaved.
First time we all been together in a month and a half, right?
Did we all meet here on March 31st together? No.
You don't remember last
So March 16th, yeah, a month and a half, yeah.
While you're there, can you make sure that that red button's on, Victor, please? Thank you.
This one?
Yeah, it's red, right?
Yeah, it's
Record?
red.
All right, thank you.
All right, 7:00, let's call this meeting to order. All rise for the pledge.
Jim Raymer is joining.
Hi, Jim. Other way. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. Leo, you were the bill committee this week. Any comments?
Well, do you need to do a roll call or
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
what you guys want?
so John Cups.
Here.
CC Johnson.
Here.
John Leo.
Here.
Mayor Bagara.
Here.
And Mike Macherkis.
Here.
All are present.
I guess I got ahead of myself. We have to do the minutes for this.
And you guys got that copy of the second copy of the minutes, the revised version? All right, thanks.
And I did review them and I didn't find anything, so I would make a motion to approve this.
All in favor?
Aye.
And back to you, John.
Hannah Bianchi, Harbor
I-
Springs Farmers
I
Market.
reviewed the bills this afternoon with Nick and found no discrepancy, so I would make a motion that we approve the bills.
Got a motion from Leo to approve the bills. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion carried.
Okay. Citizen comments.
Citizens' comments, anyone on the phone or on the internet?
Is there anyone on the phone or on YouTube that would like to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda?
Victor, this is Jim Raymer. I just want to say you cannot hear the council people speaking at all.
Okay. Let me,
Oh, the remote mics aren't like.
they don't stretch that far, so I'll put this way, hopefully this helps. If you guys can talk a little louder.
You hear us now, Jim?
That's better, yeah.
All right. Anyways, we're looking for any citizens' comment right now. If there's no,
very good.
not very good.
Will we slide up further?
If you can, yeah.
Jim, is this better?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
All right, good. All right, any citizens' comment?
I see none on YouTube either. So,
I have a few things I want to go over, if you're ready.
Sure.
All right. This is Chief Knight. First thing is that Matt Peters' last day was Tuesday, April 29th. So he is now officially retired. The new person, the intern cadet that I had hired, we just got news on Friday that it looks like if the executive order is lifted, that they might be able to go back to school on May 18th, which would allow him to graduate by June 9th. So everything's going really well with him, with the new hire that's not a licensed law enforcement officer yet, but he's working 3 days a week and he's gained a lot of knowledge. And actually, we've been pretty busy. So he's done things that some of the guys have never done here already or been involved in. So it's been a good thing for that. And then the last thing that's not on the agenda is that I was approached by Mr. Michael Bierman, the superintendent. A lot of the seniors' parents are proposing a lot of different ideas about things to do to honor the seniors, from turn the football lights on every night at 8 o'clock for 20 minutes and 20 seconds to a different variety of things. Well, came up with the idea, I credit my wife because it was her idea, but she came up with the idea of possibly doing a parade for the seniors, a vehicle-only parade with no participants outside. The idea is to have all the seniors congregate at the parking lot of the Ottawa Stadium. We would coordinate this with the school, and they would blast the information out on their Facebook page and the seniors, so that all the seniors, them and their parents would line up in the high school. I'm just throwing this out there because Mr. Bierman got back with me, talked to Shelby and a couple of the other counselors, and they thought it was a good idea, and they'd like to follow through with this. And he might be on the call yet, Mr. Beerman might. But we would have all the seniors in their cars line up in the parking lot of Ottawa Stadium. They'd be instructed not to get out. We would do a parade through town that would start at Ottawa, go down to Bay Street, all the way down to Travers, come down Travers, all the way up to Hoyt, or Maine, all the way up to Hoyt, take Hoyt to Pine, go all the Pine all the way to Summit, all the way to the other end, and Braden Lake all the way back. Talking 65 cars or so, and then what we'd do is we'd use the school's Facebook, the Harbor Light, and basically have parents and family members at their homes congratulate the seniors as they go by. And any grandparents, that would give ample opportunity for any grandparents that wanted to park along that parade route to be able to witness the cars going by, to sort of honor them. They have 2 tentative dates of graduation, I think June 21st and July 29th as a proposed outdoor commencement, but this is all contingent upon the executive orders that come out. This would be something, because Mr. Bierman, we were getting calls, and Victor's got some calls about this parent wanted to do this thing, this parent wanted to do this thing, this parent, and Denise and I got talking one night. It's like, if we could plan something ahead so they could look forward to it, that this would be something that they could look forward to and sort of put a lot of those things to rest. And they could say, okay, this is the one event that the city's going to do for these kids besides their graduation. We're not sure if they're going to have a graduation yet or not. It doesn't matter to me if we do this or don't do this. I'm just looking at an opportunity to relieve some of the tension from the schools and of us, from countless people coming up with ideas to honor the seniors, that this would be one way. If we really to put it out there, you must stay in your cars. This is not a stand by the curb type of parade. This is everybody's got to be in your vehicles. And if you are outside, for the people, practice social distancing. Obviously, it's a nice day. And the date we were looking at is possibly May 29th is the seniors' last day at like a 5 o'clock parade. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if Michael's on the phone or not, but I know this would contradict us, like canceling Memorial Day parade. And if we possibly cancel the 4th of July parade, I don't want to create a hornet's nest by saying, okay, we allow this to go on. Why can't we allow this to go on? But the difference to me is this is a vehicle parade, doesn't have a band, doesn't have anything like that. Everybody stays in their cars and is strictly done by vehicles. So I'm just throwing it out there for you guys.
Well, this proposal is very, very different than 4th of July. There's no person-to-person contact. And yet the whole city could, participate as they drive by in, giving them, applauding and giving them a heads up. So it's actually it's an interesting idea.
But I'm open to, we've gotten yielded calls about how to honor, different things have come up, put ribbons around the trees, and they did put all the signs up in front of the middle school, and it's drawn a lot of attention. There's a lot of people driving up by those. But this would be something that we could do to honor them this year. But I'm open to a nay, yay, or proceed with caution. I don't want to open Pandora's box either. And I had talked to Michael the day that, I said, I don't want this to be an annual event. This is a one-time thing this year for these seniors.
Well, hopefully the need for it is a one-time.
Right.
Yeah. Let's just do it. Be fun.
It's a good idea.
Proceed with caution.
Yeah.
I don't know if Michael's on the phone or not.
Yeah, is there any comments from anyone listening on the phone about what we've just heard from Chief Knight about having a senior vehicle parade for graduating seniors from the high school on May 29th? Hearing none, I also see none on YouTube. So I think based on consensus by council that we can.
I don't want to bag you guys in the corner for something in the future,
But if Denise suggested it, you can.
Guess what else we can play besides you?
Yeah.
We have a comment on saying good idea by Michael Kernicki.
And I'll put a fire truck there.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just, we'll blast it through Facebook, through the school's Facebook, through our Facebook, and through the Harvard Light, that this is that to make sure that we're proceeding with caution, because I don't want to violate any social distancing rules or anything like that. So,
Well, what you proposed would.
right. So I'll work with Michael, and I talked to Michael. I don't know if he'll have a chairperson for this event. He said it'll probably be him. So him and I'll work real close together to coordinate it, and then we'll have another council meeting before that date So I'll update you with where we're at.
Well, what would be helpful is once you and Michael what I would suggest is once you and Michael get together and come up with a written plan, that way we have something to say, yeah, let's go ahead with this.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
I think that's good, and we got a couple comments on YouTube. Kathy Breitner says, great idea on the parade for high school seniors, and Mark Rondell says, sounds good to me too. Moving on to other public comments, Mark Rondell, I'd like to ask for an update on the shade drain project and specifically anything that has been done about the tunnel issues. Lucas, you're on the phone. As far as I know, they've kind of put because of what's going on here, they've kind of put a stall on addressing those issues. But have you heard anything further, Lucas?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was watching on Facebook so I could hear better, or on YouTube. But again, that restoration would be at this point considered non-essential. So once they get opened up to do some other things, they'll definitely be coming back in.
If you heard that, Mark Rundell, right now they've considered that non-essential for them. So, but when construction starts again, non-essential construction starts again, they'll get back at the tunnel. And as a side comment there, we've had a couple comments from Kathy Breitner and Scott Rice on YouTube that you can hear loud and clear on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, please mute your phone. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other public comments? Ann O'Brien says the high school senior car parade is a great idea. All right.
Moving on to the city manager section.
Thank you. And just really briefly go over just how we're going to do this. For the public that's listening, each agenda item, the council members are going to go and discuss any issues or ideas they have related to any of the item agendas, and then we will open it up to the public, to the phone first, and then to YouTube. So please keep your phones on mute until it's time for the public to speak, and then we'll take it from there. The first agenda item, of course, is COVID-19 updates. I included in the council's packet some summary of changes that are now outdated because there is a new executive order that was issued on Friday afternoon, Executive Order 2020-70, as well as 2020-69, which has some relevancy. So I made some summary of changes there, which, of course, allowed landscaping services and certain outdoor services, gardening services. 2020-70 now gives May 7th as a date to allow construction, to allow realtors to get back to work. It allows any other outdoor types of activity to commence. There's also some enhanced guidelines for those people that are allowed to resume, the kinds of social distancing rules that they must follow. So there's not a whole lot new in that 2020-70, but there's some new businesses that are allowed to resume. Executive Order 2020-69 closes until May 28th. It keeps restaurants, coffee shops, gyms, recreation facilities, etc. closed through May 28th. Of course, every other day there seems to be a new executive order, so we'll just have to wait and see what comes up. But that's where we're at with those ones. So, of course, this update is a little outdated, but it's still pretty relevant. So some of the issues that we've been talking among staff here and a little bit amongst CAT that we want to bring to council were some of these that I listed in item A. Just to inform you, reopening City Hall to the public, we are not sure exactly when that will happen. We don't know when the governor will allow municipal buildings to reopen. We suspect it'll be May 15th, but staff is working on plans for the social distancing guidelines and protocols we will put in place once we do open to public. And we will have different guidelines for the different departments. For example, DPW will have different protocols and measures that they already have in place, of course, right now, because they have different circumstances. The harbor master, they deal with a little different issues down there, so they'll have slightly different protocols, as well as the police department already have their own protocols, but at one point they're probably going to start engaging the public more often for like, speeding, et cetera, for traffic control. So they'll have their own guidelines as well. But we are working on plans for that for City Hall specifically. And then the other departments will work on those. I've just told you, places of public accommodation are still closed. Event cancellations. The chamber and event organizers have canceled some Harbor Springs events, including the Memorial Day Parade, Blessing of the Fleet launch party, not necessarily the Blessing of the Fleet boat parade, quote unquote, the Business Expo, the Car Festival, and some other smaller ones that I don't have right in front of me. City Council indicated they would provide guidance on 4th of July festivities at the first June council meeting. I just wanted to confirm that the council still wants to wait until June 1st to give any further guidance.
I don't see why not. I mean, a lot of things can change between now and then.
I don't think there's a downside waiting until June 1. No permit has been requested yet, right?
No, we haven't received anything. I think it's people just waiting to hear from council.
Yeah, I think we should stick with the June 1st.
Okay.
For now.
Construction, I talked about that briefly. The city's parks, they remain open, but the playground equipment is still roped off. The council could give direction on whether or not they would still like to see the playground equipment reopened. I don't think we see a rush or need to do that, but we just want to make sure council's involved in how the parks are being used, because we are limiting access to playground equipment. We haven't had any complaints about it, but I just throw it out to you guys. Public bathrooms, our public bathrooms are still closed, and I mainly speak about the ones attached to City Hall as well as the ones at the Harbor Master building. With the warmer weather here and landscaping services resumed, construction soon to be resumed, people going out and about more, we feel like we probably should open up some of the bathrooms. We can't guarantee that they're going to be sanitized every hour. We just don't have the equipment to disinfect them. We were hoping for daily cleans. But we can talk about that a little bit later. Boating is now allowed. There has been different guidance from the Attorney General's office, the county, the Boating Industries Association. I think they've worked through all the different quirks. They've kind of gotten on the same page here. So Wallstrom's Marine and Irish Boat Shop are now operating, not to their full extent, but they're bringing boats out of storage and putting them onto the water.
They both posted very detailed overviews of what they're doing and why they're doing it, what's available and what's not. So
Right.
I think they've done a pretty good job of educating the public on what they're going to do.
Yep. After speaking with other northern Michigan municipalities, most are still aiming to open their marinas as scheduled on May 15th. I suggest we do the same. The state has delayed their openings for their state marinas to June 10th, I think. But that's more of based on resources and other things like that. We have the ability to do so. Number 8 here, electronic teleconference meetings. We're still allowed to do these meetings through teleconferencing and electronic means through May 12th. We hope that the governor extends this so we can continue holding electronic meetings without jeopardizing the safety and health of residents. But if the governor does not extend that order, or when it is ultimately lifted, the city council members will have to be physically present at City Hall to conduct these meetings or to be in attendance at these meetings. I still suggest that council should continue to allow remote public participation through teleconference and YouTube, so we don't have potentially 15, 20 people in the council chambers. So allow them to address the council as they are doing right now. And I don't know if that's something we want to also consider in the future as well, aside from this pandemic, but that's just one thought I have on that. Boards and commission meetings, other board commission meetings, DDA, Tree Board, Planning Commission, Harbor Commission are going to resume this month if there is necessary business. They'll also be held remotely as long as they're allowed to be held remotely. And finally, second homes and the latest or the 2020-59 executive order, residents are now allowed to travel between their homes, but the city is still asking that all returnees self-isolate for 2 weeks as required by the health department and the executive order. So I guess I'll open it off first to Mayor Bagheera on any comments on any of those items that we have been discussing here.
Yeah, say the parks, I think we should keep them closed or keep the playground equipment closed.
Mhm.
just because you can't. If you open them up, the kids are gonna be playing together. No stopping that. Public bathrooms, maybe for a limited time frame every day. But I don't know about keeping them open, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Maybe, noon till 6 or something, just to limit the amount of use that they get. We are able to sanitize them hourly. Voting, they're still waiting to put the moorings in.
Yeah, Lucas, and it's going to take a while because social distancing rules. They'll have 2 people on the boats to put the moorings in. But yeah, those will be going in.
They're still going in.
Yep.
Other than that, it is what it is. I guess the meetings, electronic meetings, I would prefer to do them electronically, if possible, for as long as possible.
Okay. Councilmember Cups, any comments in addition or different?
No, I pretty much agree with Matt on everything. The bathrooms, maybe that would kind of help us out if we set a time perimeter, with construction and everything starting back up. I'd maybe like 10 to 5, 10 to 4, something like that. So you can just kind of catching the work hours, more or less.
And to comment on that, the harbor master, Mike Johnson, will be able to, because he's starting to work full time now, he'll be able to monitor and clean, he said, the bathrooms at the harbor master building.
Right.
So he'll be doing that on a regular basis.
So we'll leave one of them open a little bit later, just for the people that are going down and walking around and sitting. I think we should open them up longer than just for the construction guys, for other people walking about town. And there is a certain amount of responsibility people have for taking care of their own cleanliness, washing their hands and doing stuff like that.
Well, Kyle mentioned they will be cleaned every night. And then if we limit, on the signs, limit one in, one out, so we don't have, so there are some ways to police it, so.
We will make the signs, however, once they're open, if they decide to be open, we'll put some signs out, and that's Lucas's bathrooms, it's not Bob. We'll make the signs to put them out there so that like basically people know when they go in there that they're not sanitized hourly.
Exactly.
And then also we'll put on that sign, limit one person at a time, because if you sit here and you see the contractors go in, the time's money for them, so 2 of them will jump out and run in the bathroom at the same time. So just try to, even though they come from the same vehicle, but we'll cover ourselves. But
Which technically they should be doing anyway.
right.
Yeah, it's on the signs, use bathrooms at your own risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Councilmember Leo, you have any other?
No,
Comments?
I'm in agreement. I think the expectations and rules should be clearly posted. It would be helpful if we could put, a sanitizer at the bathrooms. I don't know that everybody carries it around, but it would be one incentive. I've gotten into the habit, I see sanitizer, I use it. If we had bottles of sanitizer at the doors to the restrooms, it's some nominal incremental expense for the city, but it might get used and it might help on the way in and out. So.
May get taken.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
I'm thinking.
okay, if they get taken, then we stop doing it. But I wouldn't open with a lack of effort, just assuming that they will get taken.
I just assume that everybody's carrying it with them all the time.
To me, well, but they don't. In reality, they don't. And I would like, as the city, to go forward with our best foot. If it turns out that we're getting ripped off, well, then we'll have to reconsider. But I think the rules should definitely be posted. I agree with not opening up the play equipment. There's no way to sanitize those. So why create a propagation center for that? I agree. Electronic, what we talked about this when you started putting in new equipment for the council chambers. I think we should, from here forward, try to do as good a job as we can about making it available electronically so that people that can't participate, particularly during the winter, can tune in and participate.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnston.
I agree about keeping the playgrounds closed. I do think they should limit the hours on the restrooms though. I think 10 to 4 would be a reasonable length of time.
Thank you. Councilmember Naturkis, anything to add?
No, I'm good with them. The bathrooms, I think, should be open longer, but that's whatever they can figure it out.
Let me first ask Luke. Lucas, do you have any comments or concerns about the bathrooms, keeping them open for a certain time frame, and the DPW crew doing some cleaning there?
The only considerations I would have at this point is referring back to, Raymer and Moore's, document that they sent to you, and I think we should probably refer this back to the Northern Michigan Health Department to see what their recommendation is, and that would then cover us as a city, based on that 1978 ruling that we're not supposed to be a health department board as a city, and see what their recommendations are, and maybe we should follow those recommendations before we make a decision.
I think that's a good idea. Kyle?
Because like, to go to Mike's point about the restrooms, these restrooms are used at a different time frame than the ones down at the Harbor Master. These are like weekdays during the day. Those are used more at night or in the afternoon when people are out walking. You don't get walkers up here, so we could maybe stagger the hours between the two to accommodate more people if we needed to. Because those down there get used more by the walkers, stuff like that. Not as many walkers come up here, but these are used constantly by the construction people and the yard maintenance people.
All right. Thank you,
I
Kyle.
have one more thing.
Yep.
Just on the boating thing, so that you guys know, Wallstrom's and Irish has been really good working with me and trying to open up and making sure they were doing things right. And they stayed close to the last minute. And I told Victor, I emailed the Attorney General's office, and I give them credit because they responded relatively quickly. Once the order was lifted, there was some contradiction between whether boating was allowed and they could be open. And I talked to our local prosecutor, Mr. Linderman, and he gave the blessing that under the exception number 10 storage units, that they could open up under the storage exception. And then the Attorney General's office didn't give a really good answer, yes or no, but then somebody contacted the Attorney General's office in reference to they heard that the Harbor Springs had prohibited boats from moving, and they said that's not the case. So basically they gave me their answer indirectly. So I give credit to both of those companies because they waited until they gave the green light from us. So thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. At this point, is there anything else from the council before I go open it up to the public? Comments? Any public comments on the phone about any of these COVID-19 updates? Hearing none. We got on YouTube here some comments. Can we have all meetings continue online for the benefit of absent residents? That's,
Victor?
yes?
Victor? Sorry. Victor, I'm sorry. This is Sharon Mahalik on the phone.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I did have one point of clarification, just something simple. You talked about the blessing of the fleet. That is not organized or hosted by the chamber. That is the Harbor Springs Area Historical Society. Just a point of clarification.
Yeah, that was just I misspoke there. I had it written as a chamber and event organizers. But yeah, thank you, Sharon.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and we did cancel the party, but at this point, we're still hoping to have a boat parade, obviously within the constraints of the whatever guidelines are in place at that time.
Thank you.
Marco was asking about the beaches. Those are open, right? People can swim.
The beaches?
Sure. Mike is open swimming on it. Okay. But I mean, are the beaches open? Can they swim?
The beaches, we have not closed the beaches.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's your answer.
No, there's no
And
sun coming.
Margo asked, and because I know kids are going down there and jumping in.
There's been people swimming down here at the dog beach as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was I was confused. I didn't know what you were talking about. I was gonna read these comments. So Kathy Winsma said, can we have all meetings continue online for the benefit of absent residents? Margot DeMoose asked, are the public beaches open for swimming? Michael Kernicki said, put the sanitizer attached to the wall outside bathroom like you have in airport bathrooms. William Mulder says, will the dog beach be open? Kathy Winsma says, what's the status for vacation rentals? We will get that at item B. Michaela Fisher asks, is there any update on regulations of short-term rentals? Mark Rondell, V Nurse Nancy asks why there are no masks in the council. Barbara Bose Boutique to confirm, I'm assuming there's nothing to discuss yet regarding shop opening in Harbor Springs until Governor Whitmer gives the go-ahead for statewide opening. So I'll give it to Mayor Bagheera for to handle any of those responses first.
And so beaches are open if you're brave enough to go in the water. Sanitizer outside the bathroom. That would make it harder for them to steal it. I agree with that. Dog beach, I don't know. Vacation rentals, we don't have masks on because we're 6 feet apart. And Barbara Boz, we can't help. So no.
Councilmember Cups,
I don't, no, we're gonna talk about the rentals, so, yeah, no, I got nothing.
Councilmember Johnston,
No comments.
Councilmember Leo,
Nothing to add?
and Councilmember Nachurkis.
You did skip over Mark Rondell. He's more interested in the tunnel than the.
Oh. Has there been any analysis of the tunnel situation? So I must have missed that as a response
Are you
to,
talking about the standing water in it?
that's what I assumed he was talking.
That's what I would be asking.
And that's something that Lucas said that they were going to address once it becomes non-essential. But going off of that, though, that reminds me, we did get today, just speaking really briefly about the tunnel, the state denied our request to use the tunnel as a bike path. So we're going to think about our steps going forward, whether we can appeal that or petition it somehow, discuss further. Next council meeting, I'll have an update on that, but it's just something that just happened today. I got a call today about it from the state, so.
And the state has jurisdiction because it goes under.
M119. Yep.
As I was coming in, a man on his bicycle went up and under.
He had nowhere to go after that.
On the wall.
Waiting for the water to come.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about that next meeting. I just wanted to update you. It just came to me about that. We good to go on to item B, which is short-term rentals. Let me get there really quickly. So at our last council, well, not our last council meeting, at a special council meeting on March 31st, we enacted a moratorium on issuing licenses for short-term rentals. We said we would re-examine it at this May 4th meeting. The May 4th meeting is here. Mr. Raymer proposed an amendment, and we discussed some language on what the council could consider. And so the important language, I'll just read it out loud, that would be the critical part of the administrative ordinance amendment would say, this administrative ordinance number 2020-1 should terminate upon the latter of the expiration of Governor's Order 2020-59 and any substantive extensions thereof. 2, the expiration of the Health Department of Northwest Michigan's directive that individuals from areas outside Northern Michigan coming into Northern Michigan should self-quarantine for 14 days upon entering and residing within Northern Michigan, and blank. And that blank would be a date that council chooses. My idea is if council wants to rely on the state and the county for their advice on when to lift this moratorium, I would suggest a date that's prior to May 15th. If council wants to wait to the state lifts their moratorium on visiting vacation rentals to see what the conditions are like up here in Northern Michigan, I would suggest council pick a date sometime further into the summer. So I'll leave it up to the council to discuss that. And Mayor Bagheera.
Yeah, so we're kind of stuck. What the ban right now is.
The ban right now in Executive 2027, it just says you cannot visit your vacation rentals, or you cannot occupy vacation rentals. So it's basically,
It's open-ended at this time.
yeah, they can't go, but they didn't say, people can't rent them out. They just said visitors can't go to vacation rentals.
The problem we got is it's not being policed up here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a very small amount within the city, and we can't control what's going on around the city, and they're here. The people are in them, they're coming and going, we all know people that take care of them. My opinion would be to lift it, let things go back to normal. I mean, we can't, the handful we got in town's not gonna stop what's going on around us, in my opinion.
So just to be clear that if we pick an earlier date, the governor's order would still be in place. So that, if the governor extends the order to May 28th or June 5th to not visit vacation rentals, then people can't visit vacation rentals per the order. But we would just not extend our local moratorium beyond that. Councilmember Leo, any comments?
I would rely on the broader knowledge of the health department and put a date on it that would mean that when the state declares that it's okay to travel, that short-term rentals could go back into effect, but not before that.
Well, I think that trumps our decision anyway, doesn't it?
Well, we need to make a decision on what date to put in there.
Yeah, so really, but I think Councilmember Nachurk is right. That does trump the decision. But if we put a later date, let's say if we put something like July 15th and the governor lifts it by May 28th, that means our short-term moratorium is still in
Well,
place.
What John's saying is, why don't we just lift it now on our end, and when she says go, it's just go.
Exactly, yeah.
That's my opinion.
So then we'd have to pick up an earlier date.
Right.
Councilmember Johnston?
I'm for waiting till what the state does.
Yeah.
Okay. So then
The state has tended to take a very conservative approach. So I think we instituted the moratorium when there was really no guidance. So now that the state is ahead of us, let's base it on that.
So I guess from council, we would need suggest a date then. I mean, it could be any date. It could be, we could lift it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And
I'll make a motion, we lift our moratorium tomorrow and then follow state guidelines from here on out. Second that.
can I first open it up to the public about, it's on the telephone, anyone in the public have any comments about short-term rentals? The council's motion on the table to lift the city to lift its moratorium tomorrow, which would be May 5th, or we would put that date of May 5th in the amendment, but the vacation rental then ban, quote unquote, would be dependent on when the state lifts their ban. So any comments from the public on the phone?
Hi, this is Vance Vandale. I just have, I support what you're saying. I just have a question about what constitutes a short-term rental. What is the term? Is it anything less than 30 days? How do you define that?
Yeah, the term is less than 30 days. I don't have the language right in front of me, but yes, it is less than 30. It is less than 30 days. 30 days or less, I believe.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Any other comments from the phone? Or people on the phone? The phone doesn't speak. All right, I'll turn to any YouTube comments, and we just got one, I guess, additional from Mark Rendell. That's correct. I'm concerned about the settling on the uphill end, lots of traffic and down the, all right, that's regarding the tunnel. Yeah. All right, hearing no other comments, there's a motion on the table made by Cups, seconded by Mike, that we would insert a date of May 5th in the amendment. Yeah, we do a roll call here, yep. CC Johnston,
Yes.
John Cups,
Yes.
Mike Nachurkis,
Yes.
Mayor Bagheera,
Yes.
and John Leo.
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on to item C. This is about the changes in the farmer's market here. Chief Knight talked with Hannah Bianchi, the market master, about the farmer's market this year in Harbor Springs. Farmers market per the state are still allowed to go on because they are providing food, which is groceries, essential, local fresh food. There are certain conditions and rules that they must follow. They've been given out kind of statewide guidance on that. And so then Hannah Bianchi created her own little plan that I've put into your packet. And some of the key points there is there will be enforcing social distancing. Masks will be required by vendors and customers. No food sampling or prepared foods or on-site food consumption. No added events, music, or programs. There'll be increased spacing between vendors, 2 hand washing stations, hand sanitizer at each booth, 2 vendors per booth, 1 to handle money and 1 to the food or the product. Pre-sale from 9 to 10. They would follow a formula provided by the state to calculate the maximum occupancy, and the Harbor Springs Farmers Market will have a maximum occupancy of 195. Added signage to clarify market rules and suggesting a max of 1 to 2 people per party. Chief Knight, if you want to add anything to what.
So Hannah and I met last week, and she actually sent me the PowerPoint provided by the Farmers Market Association. And it's a good PowerPoint that outlines everything that she needs to do to run an effective farmers market during this time. The distancing, we figured the decision to extend it down by Zorn gives us that much more room to space it out. Based on the occupancy provided by the state, we can get approximately 197 people in that area. So that's a lot of people downtown. And when Hannah and I sat down and sort of spaced out, she's gonna eliminate some of the non-essential vendors like the knife sharpening and stuff like that. So all she's gonna have is like produce and stuff like that until the ban's lifted. I think she's on the phone as well, but she's got a good game plan. We sit down and went over all these bullet points, and I have the utmost confidence that she'll do a great job of managing it. We're gonna provide some signage as well, just basically remind people of social distancing and stuff like that. But I don't see any problem with it. I think it's an essential thing that actually I was listening to the radio today, and another community was doing the same thing. It's an essential. People are eating more at home. They need these type of produce and stuff like that. So I don't see any problem.
I'll open it up to the council. Thank you, Kyle. Mayor Bagheera?
I guess, all the rules look good. The only, looking for some clarification on the market pre-sale from 9 to 10. Not sure what that means.
You might want to ask Hannah that.
Hannah, are you on the phone?
Yeah, so market resale, I am working on a website for the farmer's market right now, and it's not going to be required by every vendor, but their contact information will be listed on the website. Each customer can contact the vendors, and then pre-sales will be completely paid for. Where the music tent used to be, and hopefully we'll be back Sunday soon. That's where the pre-sales pickup will be, and the line of customers will form going out of market instead of going into market to allow for distancing. Because then all they do is they say their names, you pick up your bag, your box, and you leave. So we're really just trying to limit the amount of time that people are at market.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess doesn't the market typically open at 9 o'clock in the past?
Yes, market opens at 9.
Okay, maybe have the pre-sale stuff available before or after the market instead of during the market? That would be my only comment.
Well, the problem with before is just that vendors aren't there yet.
Right.
So
But afterwards,
after could be an option as well, yes.
right?
It's just time of being downtown, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of reducing the crowds, number of people,
What about opening the market at 10 and pre-sales only between 9 and 10?
That would be an option too, yeah. Did you hear that, Hannah? Open the market at
I can't hear on the phone, so I'm trying to listen on YouTube, but I also, it's delayed, so.
right. CC said, open the market at 10 and just do the pre-sale from 9 to 10. So you have the pre-sale people, get them out of there, and then the market can open at 10 o'clock.
That would be a good option. I could work on that. The only, I already have a hard time, we have a hard time keeping people out of the market. Even right now, when we start at 9, we have people always trying to get in early. So I would just kind of have to figure out a way to keep people out for as long as possible.
Call
But
Cindy,
that's
she
a good
was
idea.
good at it.
Also, I think people should only be able to enter the market this year. They should somehow block it off so that people can only enter from, say, State Street.
See, we talked about that, Hannah and I did, because that's one of the recommendations to the Farmers Market Association. The problem that we have is that with our parking, like either you're gonna park down by the beach and walk up Zorn, you're gonna park by the church and walk between the church and community center, or we have 4 entrances basically, and I don't know, we can rope them off and make them come, but I don't, that's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But we talked exactly about that, because they recommend that, having one point of entry and one point of exit. But it's like, when I looked at our, down here, a lot of farmers markets are in a building that's already pre-built, so they can come in one end and they can go out the other end. Ours is not that way, it's a city street. I know it, unless somebody has an idea. We talked about that, and I agree with you, CC, that it'd be better to do that, I just don't know how we could do it.
Well, I'm in favor of this.
Get
It's a big step in the right direction.
velvet ropes out.
But I think
I
if we have, let's say, for example, in Hannah's there, if we have 20 to 30 vendors, when we space it out, we have 550 linear feet from State Street all the way down to the end of Zorn Park. So if each vendor's 10 foot and we stagger them, one vendor on one side, the other one's across that I think that we're gonna have ample, I hope we have ample spacing.
Yeah, lots of it.
Yeah, and that extra, that is about halfway through, so I got on the map and spaced it out, and we're gaining another like 250 feet by going down to the end of Zorn. And if we have to go further, we can go further as far as that goes.
I think it's great work.
Any other council members have any comments?
I'm in favor. I think it's a really well thought out plan. I'm really pleased that you're working with her. I think she's done a tremendous job here. The only question I had, and it kind of relates to what you were saying, there's so many points of entry and egress. The whole idea of enforcement, whether it be social distancing or how are you gonna do that?
It's gonna be tough on our end. Hannah and I spoke, we're gonna have somebody down there try to be there the majority of the time, but how to determine somebody's a family, not a family, that's gonna be the tough thing.
But you kind of answered my question. You're gonna have someone down
Yes, we'll have somebody down there, and
there. That will help.
Hannah and I spoke about it, and we're gonna have somebody, but it's like, I went to the state park Saturday night, there was 100 cars at the state park at 8:30 on Saturday night, and there were people all over the beach. And so, I don't know whose family, or we're not gonna determine who's family or who's not family, but at least if we're there and have a presence, and have the signs in place, we're gonna send a
No,
message.
if there's a police presence walking up and down, that's kind of a visual cue to pay attention. I think that's the best you can do.
Okay, thank you.
No, well done, Hannah.
Is there any other comments from council members?
Thank you.
Scott Reese's letter about moving it
Mhm.
back so it doesn't block the storefronts there. I don't know if there's any interest in pushing it to the other side of the alley.
Not for me.
Not for the short term. What, no.
No, he wants to do that. He wants to move down farther is what he wants. He wants to sort of block his storefront. I think, has he had a storefront before?
Yeah,
The
that's
other
right.
front.
The other
front.
No, I think it's in a good,
Is it?
His, so,
leave it alone.
Is there any comments from anyone from the public on the phone about the farmer's market?
This competition.
There's competition about a bakery.
Hearing no comments from on the phone, there is a comment on YouTube from Barbara Bose Boutique. May I suggest that we not limit the quantity of folks at the farmer's market, with everyone wearing a mask and the booth spaced 10 feet apart and it being an open air market? I think it's safe. And I don't think, to answer your question, Barbara, I don't think it is the city or the farmer's market itself that came up with those numbers. I believe it was a state calculation, a formula provided by the state to calculate the maximum occupancy. So they basically measured how much space they would be using on West Main Street, and then they calculate how many people could fit in there. So it's just a state guideline that we're following there.
And to clarify that, this is Chief Knight, we're not gonna go head counting. I mean, we'll monitor it. If it gets to, we'll space people out, but I don't anticipate us being over 197 people down there.
People aren't camping out there, you're never gonna have 200 people.
197 at one time, I don't think it'll happen.
That, and I think that is sort of like going to the grocery store right now. It's very docile and quiet. Like, people will get there, they'll get their things. Some people are gonna socialize, but they're gonna want to, I think, around there.
But again, if you've got an officer there and they're patrolling, that's a reminder.
Most of the time it'll be me.
Move on.
Great. Hearing no other comments from the council members or the public or staff, I don't think we need to, I think there's unanimous consensus. I don't think we need to vote on this. We already approved the event anyway. So this is just an update on the changes that are happening. Okay, we can move on to the next item agenda, which is item agenda D, charter review or the charter amendment process. Attorney Jim Raymer created a document of the steps we would need to take to amend our city charter. And we think now is a good time to move on this because there's not a lot of interaction with the public that we're doing in the office. So to focus our efforts on this, we could get this done with and prepared for potentially a ballot item. It would need to be put on the ballot eventually, as you probably read in the packet. But so basically there's two different kinds of charter reviews. One is an amendment and one's a revision. A revision is much more substantial. It's talking about changing things up and how we do things in the city, which council may or may not decide to do. But at this point, what we were thinking about was really getting our charter up to date with state law, getting rid of inconsistent language or clarifying inconsistent language. And then in the following memorandum, Attorney Mr. Raymer detailed the steps that we would need to follow to make this a reality. And the first step is the council by majority vote would appoint a committee composed of the mayor and one other council person to work with the city manager, clerk, and attorney to develop a recommendation on amendments to the charter. There's many other items on that list, but if Mr. Raymer, Jim, if you're on the phone, if you want to add anything additional about this process to help council kind of understand what it would look like.
No, I think you covered it well, Victor. The amendment process is definitely the way to go. I think at this point, a revision is not something that I've heard a great deal of enthusiasm about from the council itself. I think John Leo kind of took the lead on this, and his idea was to be able to have a charter you could open up and read a law and understand that it's applicable, because there's much of it now that is no longer enforceable or legal because of constitutional abrogation or legislative preemption. So the process we're proposing is the amendment rather than the revision. And one benefit of that is that the council itself defines what the process looks like.
Yep, and an example of that is in the COVID-19 updates, I had gone to Mr. Raymer because our charter says that the city council shall serve as the health board, but that's no longer valid because the health department now on the county level serves as the health board for all the municipalities within the county. So that's just one example of dozens that we have that are just outdated and inconsistent with state law. Some of the highlights there is that, of course, this is all, Mr. Raymer broke this out into a lot of steps, but essentially council forms a committee. The committee goes through the charter, identifies amendments that need to be made. Those are then, presented back to council, and then we propose charter amendments to be separately stated on, and for during the election process for voters to vote on those amendments. There'll be a proposed process and then a formal proposal, and then the council will determine which form the proposed charter amendment or question shall appear on the ballot. And then there's some additional, deadlines that we have to follow by then. It has to go to the Attorney General and the governor if it's approved or if they're approved, et cetera, et cetera. But this whole process will be jump-started by the council choosing the mayor. Well, the mayor has to be one of them, and choosing another council member to serve on that committee with the city manager, clerk, and attorney to start going through those amendments. And Mr. Raymer has been keeping track over the course of the years. He already has a list of outdated and inconsistent things. It'd be just basically going through it formally with everyone involved. So I guess I'll open it up to the mayor first. Any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, that's something we need to do, and I think the amending, it's the easier path, starting from scratch.
Thank you, Councilmember Cups.
Well, I agree with the mayor. That's something that needs to be done, so.
Councilmember Johnston
I agree, should be amended.
and Councilmember Leo.
No, I agree. I'm glad this is back on the front burner. It's a long time coming. When we last discussed it, though, the only other obvious amendment issue would be things that do not jive with our planning code. Now, would that be a second pass? Would that be more of a revision?
That could be a revision, and it also could be, we'd have to take the code, and that's really potentially looking at the code and whether we want to revise the code or the charter.
Exactly.
So that would be, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Raymer, but I think that would be a revision as opposed to amendment.
That's what I'm clarifying.
Jim, did you hear the question?
Okay, I couldn't quite hear John, what he said, but I think the charter, I think John was talking about planning. Is that correct, John?
But I'm trying to remember, it's really been a while since we last discussed this. I think Jeff was involved at one point. There are items, if I'm remembering correctly, there are items in the charter that seem to conflict with our planning code. And that was going to be perhaps second pass. As I remember, you were going to do a first pass, and you were going to identify those things that are in the charter that conflicted with state and other laws. And then Jeff was going to do a review to look for conflicts with what he believed were conflicts with our planning code, and then that's what we were going to move forward with.
Okay, well, I have completed the task that I was charged with, which is marking up the code with those provisions which are no longer enforceable. And it seems to me that what Jeff was talking about is more within the master plan and the code itself. I don't think it's really anything in the charter itself that needs to be modified with respect to planning.
Great. And once council gets to see the marked up charter, that may clarify things. Probably will clarify things for me. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Nachurkis?
No, I agree.
Okay. At this point, I'll open it up to the public on the phone. Is there anyone on the phone that has any comments about the charter amendment process? Hearing none. Anyone on YouTube have any comments? And I don't see anything other than Hannah left a comment saying, "Thank you for your time. I look forward to safely seeing everyone at the farmer's market." So hearing none, I guess we would need a motion by council to, by majority vote, to appoint a committee, again, which would include the mayor and another council member, and then the three staff outlined. So I guess it's up to one of you guys to appoint yourselves, or
I'll make a motion to appoint John
Leo.
Seems how he's already kind of been working.
He's been waiting for this since he's been voted in.
I'm glad to do it. I went down so many rabbit holes that, yeah, I'm glad to work with the mayor and the city to do it.
All right, so let me do a roll, well, we'll get to the motion. Someone make that official motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with amending the charter with myself and Councilman Leo.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, and I'll do a roll call. Mayor Bagara,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Leo,
No, yes.
Councilmember Nachurkis.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Cups.
Yes. Majority would just.
I know.
Motion carried.
I was doing something.
It goes by youth.
So the next item on the agenda, Jim Raymer, if you want to guide council with the necessary language that they would need to make in order to go into closed session to discuss the potential for acquisition of some property.
Okay, yes, if the council is so inclined to go into closed session, we would need a motion by a member to move into closed session to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
I'll make that motion.
CC Johnston has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
John Cup has seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so we'll go into closed session and that will be held through Zoom. So for Mr. Raymer, if you want to, I'll send you a Zoom invite
I'll
or click on that link. I'll set that up soon.
and I'll see you all in a minute.
All right, thank you.
Are you gonna go back and discuss other things? Is there anything?
Oh, we might,
We're gonna hang up. Oh, and we're just gonna do it with Zoom.
We're gonna have a